I'd like to welcome this guy in. He is, when it comes to music, movies, streaming, television, art, photography, he is remarkable. He is, in my judgment, without peer. And his movie criticism and his evaluations of various things for your home and in theater entertainment, without comparison. He comes and goes on a rainbow. He's Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster.
I am here, my friends, and I will say that I am with peer, specifically Mike, Master Mark, of course, Kimmy, Mac, Al, the listener's pal, and he's not here, but the Duck Whisperer, Tony. We love them all, and the audience. You guys are absolutely the best. Thank you so much for tuning in and suffering through my segment. By the way, Mark, I heard you send up the bat signal for David Katz. How is it you don't send up the Katz signal, which would make so much more sense?
I should have set up the Katz signal.
Hey, I'm guilty of bringing that to your attention.
Yeah.
And I'm also guilty of having a Mark Thompson speedball. My jokes earlier notwithstanding, Tenuta Vineyards wine and a cup of Coachella Valley coffee back, and it's so evenly balanced.
Yeah, that's what we serve here in studios, the Coachella Valley coffee.
Yeah,
it's a little early for the wine, although we do have it.
Yeah, I won't get near there, but I just thought, I'd reference the speedball idea, which is true. If you want to support the Mark Thompson show, that's one way to do it, or just keep tuning in and smashing the like button. We're always happy to be here. We have movies to discuss.
Before you get to that, I just want to acknowledge the various super stickers that were sent by Cynthia Jeffrey. They added up to 34, which was the number of counts that the former president was found guilty on, and that was sort of the magic of all of those handful of super stickers that she sent along. So thank you.
I appreciate that lovely distraction. Thank you so much. I'm like trying to focus on bringing the culture. The blast, the culture blast. Yes. Shall we get to it? What do you say? All right. From Joachim Röning, director of Disney's mediocre sequels Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, comes Young Woman and the Sea, which is an earnest Disney sports-oriented triumph over the odds docudrama or biopic with a female empowerment element that will make you shake your head over how backwards people were in the early 20th century. This is definitely a story worth telling. The struggle of New York tenement kid Gertrude Trudy Ederle, the sickly daughter of working-class German immigrant parents, who would, spoiler alert, become a world-class swimmer on the U.S. Olympic team and the first woman to swim the English Channel. She's born in the early 1900s, right there back then, and it's you get a lot of color from New York during that era, and then she and her sister decide they want to swim. The cast led by Daisy Ridley, aka Ray from Star Wars.
I didn't realize that the English Channel is close to New York. You're saying that's where they were?
No, not at all. How did you put that
I'm
together?
Sorry. Go ahead.
You have some geographical issues you have to work through, Mark. I know you've been over to the UK. You know the distance involved. Anyway,
but were they in New York or were they?
They were in New York. That doesn't mean she didn't want to swim the English Channel. That's a big deal, buddy.
I know. I get it, but she's got to get to England to do it.
Well, in order to do that, you do things like swim against the tide, if you will, and become a top-notch swimmer. Get on the U.S. Olympic team and be taken seriously. We'll get to that.
Anyway, she did all those things? Wow.
Daisy Ridley was Ray in Star Wars, and she plays Trudy. And this movie also features two of my favorite British actors, Stephen Graham, who was Al Capone in Boardwalk Empire and stars in a very good foodie movie called Boiling Point, which I recommend people seek out. It's from a number of months ago. And Christopher Eccleston is in here as well. He was one of the first of the new Doctor Who's. He's really a terrific a British actor. And there are some lesser knowns, and everybody's very good. The cinematography and period art direction are high quality, especially the depiction of old New York and the pivotal channel swim, which becomes the point of the entire film. But the script by Jeff Nathanson and Glenn Stout follows the standard plot structure for one of these movies in a very heavy-handed way, and the dialogue is pretty lumpy at times. It does seem laughable now that swimming was thought to be inappropriate for decent women back in those bad old days. I'm not joking. It was a big deal that any woman would want to swim. How dare you? How dare you swim?
Sure.
Simply ghastly, darling. Anyway, that made Trudy and her sister kind of rebels of a sort. And Trudy had some serious skills. Ridley is so appealing and quietly determined as Trudy that you do root for her. And Graham is a shamelessly free-spirited veteran distance swimmer in this thing. And Eccleston is terrific as a mean-spirited swimming coach. They're such accomplished actors that you might forgive the occasional clinker of a line they have to spout. Young Woman and the Sea is entertaining and has its moments, and it's going to play just fine on Disney Plus. For now, it's in theaters.
Oh, so he says miss it in the theater, catch it in
well, it's kind of lovely on the big screen. You know, that swimming and I mean...
No, I thought you kind of bailed on recommending it as an in-theater offering.
I'm just saying it's okay. It's just not great because it's so boilerplate in terms of these kind of biopics, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get to something that I also had problems with. Okay, and more problems, I think, on some level than I had with Young Woman in the Sea, but it all balances out. Ezra is a dramedy that has its own clumsiness issues on the scripting front, but it also has some serious star power. Not that it'll sweep away some basic baloney that is meant to pass for plot here. I looked at the cast, and I had my hopes up. It is such a treat to see the likes of Bobby Cannavale, Rose Byrne, Robert De Niro, Whoopi Goldberg, Rainn Wilson, and Vera Farmiga in almost anything, including this movie Ezra. And I would say there's something to be said for a movie that has its heart in the right place. But this look at psychologically damaged stand-up comic Max Bernal, played by Cannavale, who is trying to raise his autistic son Ezra, played by young William Fitzgerald, with his estranged, about-to-be ex-wife Jenna, played by Byrne, that started to get on my last nerve, you know? Maybe it was the legitimate outbursts of the kid, Ezra, whose tantrums are depicted in a fair way for someone suffering from that kind of degree of autism. More likely, though, it's the ridiculous plot contrivances that compel Max, who is living with his own father, played by De Niro, to essentially kidnap the boy, Ezra, and take him on a road trip from New York to a big break gig in Hollywood that was arranged by his manager, played by Goldberg, because Max thinks the kid might, you know, be his, I don't know, what would you call it, lucky charm. And that's despite the fact that the kid might start screaming and tell uncomfortable truths at any time, even while Max is performing. So you see the tension that's developing here, right? So it's kind of a relief when Wilson and Farmiga show up in small roles, when Goldberg does her wise Whoopi thing, and when De Niro's, because you're getting a little break from Max's self-destructive, heedless behavior and Ezra's time bomb outbursts, because you know he's going to, it's a trigger thing, you know? I guess that's the point. And to be honest, this kid Fitzgerald is quite believable as Ezra. Tony Goldwyn, veteran actor and director, is not only in the movie as Jenna's new boyfriend, he also directed. I wanted to like Ezra more. It tries to take an unflinching look at the challenges and potentially debilitating aspects of raising a special needs child, but the contrivances got a little tough to accept, and it almost became as much of a trial as kidnapping your autistic son and going on a coast-to-coast jaunt with him. I can't imagine.
It feels a little Rain Man-ish, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. There's a little of that here.
But, I mean, I don't know. Apparently, teacher Laurie, who's seldom wrong, says that the actor who played the autistic son is on the spectrum. I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, he tapped into it and did a great job. And Tony Spiridakis is the screenwriter here. And there are moments that are lovely. And then there are others where I'm like, come on, dude. Could you be more corny? Anyway, let's move on to something I like much more.
Contrivance is a ding word among other
I want to
things.
look. Let me move on to something that you will never watch, but I thought was very well done. It's time to break out the party hats, axes, and meat cleavers to celebrate, because it looks like we have a new horror movie franchise on our hands.
This has to be horror.
And in our nightmares. In a Violent Nature is a low-budget, often moody, yet cleverly executed slasher movie that brings a little fresh gore to the usual fun, with a masked killer who is compelled to dispatch unsuspecting and smug young people in the woods. You know,
if you're not watching and just listening, the poster for this film, In a Violent Nature, is this grim reaperish character in a holding like a meat cleaver or something up there. What, I don't know what. Anyway, go ahead.
So our violent force of nature in the film is not particularly an enigma in A Violent Nature. As it plays out, there's a bit of the Friday the 13th killing machine Jason to this movie's Johnny. Disturbed by the removal of a locket from his gravesite near a ranger station and logging camp in the woods, Johnny's decades-old reanimated corpse relentlessly walks through the beautiful Ontario forest setting in search of his token, and the people, mostly teenagers on a weekend woodland getaway, who might have taken what's his. So, Johnny has mommy issues, naturally, and wears a firefighter's mask most of the time.
And he's the reanimated character.
Yes, he has very creative ways to slaughter his targets, and a few of them are quite original. When the time comes, In a Violent Nature is violent, naturally. I mean, bloody kudos to screenwriter-director Chris Nash, who has not reinvented the wheel here, but has found a few wild and original ways to run over people with the wheel. Because, boy, some crazy stuff goes down here. The last 15 minutes are a bit odd, even if Nash still adheres to some of the conventions of the genre. Ultimately, he does a fine job of building tension and upping the creep factor throughout this effective, no frills but cool kills horror flick. In a Violent Nature is in select theaters.
Wow. You really like this in a Violent Nature, it's called. What else do you have?
Okay. Well, Summer Camp, speaking of being in the woods.
Tell me that's horror.
Well, it's a stultifyingly unfunny comedy.
Stultifying.
That is the latest Diane Keaton-fronted attempt to wring laughs out of a group of elder women grappling with growing old and fraying bonds of friendship while they try to rediscover their mojo. Kind of like the barely tolerable Book Club movie and its sequel that Keaton starred in. Keaton has roped Kathy Bates and Alfre Woodard into summer camp as her childhood pals, getting together at a summer camp reunion after many years apart. As a bonus of sorts, we also get Beverly D'Angelo as a nemesis and Eugene Levy and Dennis Haysbert as potential romantic interests, all wasted.
Nemesis.
Keaton's recent Freaky Friday knockoff, Mac and Rita, and the Lily Tomlin Jane Fonda vehicle, 80 for Brady, may have been in a similar bag and pretty awful to boot, but summer camp is somehow worse. And now how bad is it? It made 80 for Brady seem like on Golden Pond. I'm not joking.
Wow.
So the ladies of summer camp are a chilly workaholic, played by Keaton, a wealthy and smug self-help guru, played by Bates. I kept looking at her and seeing Misery, if you know what I mean. And a registered nurse, played by Woodard, and she has a controlling husband. Bad slapstick, brutally flat jokes, and a tediously shrill tone are the camp rules here, made even more unpleasant by an intrusive, treacly score. I kept hoping that Johnny from In a Violent Nature would invade this camp and take out a bunch of the campers. And now that would have been that movie I would have been standing up and cheering for. Go get him! Go get him, Johnny!
I love that. Shrill is a ding word.
Anyway, supporting players include Josh Peck, who was apparently slumming. I think he was in Oppenheimer. Nicole Richie, say what? And Betsy Sodaro from the CBS sitcom Ghost. She plays one of the downstairs, like the basement ghosts who has like some horrible disease. She died of some plague. And she's given so much more to work with on Ghosts than in this thing. Summer Camp was written and directed by Castile Landon. You know, it's always nice to see women continuing to take the filmmaking reins, but this one felt like a setback for the gals.
Wow.
It's in theaters.
Bummer.
I want to wrap up the movie section here with something that was so in my wheelhouse, I can't even tell you. It's called Robot Dreams, and Robot Dreams is an animated feature written and directed by Pablo Berger, a Spanish guy. This was Oscar nominated, and it is a whimsically and surprisingly moving feature from Spain, and it's set in 1980s New York City. And there is no dialogue, thus no subtitles, so that's cool. And the signage and products on display are all in English. You'll be pleased to know, Mark, that a recurring musical number in the movie is Earth, Wind, and Fire's September, co-written by your wonderful friend, the late Allie Willis.
Oh, that's really terrific. So I'll have to see it.
It's so sweet. So this is the basic nature of things. In this version of 1980s New York, everybody's an animal. And we focus on a dog named Dog who doesn't want to be alone. He's lonely. So he has the opportunity, even though this is the 1980s in New York, it's a fantasy version with animals instead of humans. And he mails away for a build-it-yourself robot to be his companion. And they totally hit it off. But something really, really unfortunate happens, and they are separated. And this movie is all about the struggle between the dog named Dog and his robot to kind of be reunited.
Michael, I cannot have my heart broken anymore.
It's so sweet. The question is, are they going to be able to reunite? And how it's approached is so clever. And I love the style of the artwork because it's uncommon. It doesn't look like your standard American animation, but by the same token, it's a very legitimate animated version of New York in the 80s, which I think is cool.
Oh, that's terrific. I really am going to see. Where is Robot Dreams playing?
It is currently in theaters, but I'm assuming it'll be coming to VOD very, very soon.
Yeah.
I think so. And, I encourage you to check it out. I think you'll really, really enjoy it.
What do you have in the way of TV shows for us?
Well, I wanted to briefly touch on a couple things that I totally got a kick out of. One of which is I am a big fan of Doctor Who. I mentioned Christopher Eccleston earlier. He was the first of the new versions of the Doctor, a time-traveling, space-faring member of a lost race called the Time Lords. And they regenerate when they need to change actors. He's capable as an immortal of regenerating. So it was a clever way to get around anybody's contract issues or someone was burnt out on the role. In the I guess 2006, a guy named Russell Davies, who was a television producer in the UK, who grew up with Doctor Who and knew that it had been on hold for a number of years, albeit with a brief break by our friend Matthew Jacobs, who scripted a Doctor Who TV movie for Fox, but it didn't take off.
We had him here on this show.
Yeah. So Davies brought back the show, and over the course of its run since 2006, it became more and more popular. It introduced the wonderful David Tennant as the Doctor after Eccleston, the equally wonderful Matt Smith as the Doctor, Karen Gillan, who's become a star on her own since being on the show, Peter Capaldi and Jodie Whittaker, and they have a new Doctor. And Davies, after giving up the reins to the show to the likes of the great Stephen Moffat and Chris Chibnall, is back, and he has reinvigorated the show in a lot of ways, and he brought in, maybe in a youth movement, Nchuti Gatwa, who is a Scottish Rwandan actor who plays the lovable Eric on the Netflix show Sex Education. And he's actually a grown man, not a teenager anymore. And he is wonderful as the Doctor. He's very charismatic and energetic. He's the first black and out gay actor to play the Doctor. And his companion, Millie Gibson, a young blonde 19, 20-year-old who was very popular on a famous British soap opera, is also equally wonderful. They've had about 4 episodes, one of which was written by Stephen Moffat and is already one of my favorites ever, where the Doctor inadvertently steps on a mine in a battleground, and he can't get his foot off the mine or everything goes kablooey. Very tense, very exciting, very smart. And if you're a fan, it's now on Disney Plus. And Disney is investing a lot of money into it, so the special effects have never looked so good. And
you're a huge Doctor Who guy. I mean, I remember for years you've been a Doctor Who. And what is this? Is someone was saying Doctor Who? Oh, my first Doctor was Doctor Tom Baker.
Oh, Tom Baker, sure.
It's been downhill ever since, says John.
Really not so,
that's
John.
Not true, John. How dare you, John?
Tom Baker obviously is the gold standard of the first run of doctors.
So you agree with John that much
in that era. Yeah. But Matt Smith, David Tennant, Eccleston, Capaldi, and the jury's still out on Ncuti Gatwa, but he's also pretty damn charismatic.
Yes, John. Maybe it's you, John Slade, who needs to take another look at where you are on Doctor Who.
Okay.
Because there have been many a great Doctor Who since Tom Baker.
I would think so. So anyway, I really...
So the new incarnation of Doctor Who, it's on Disney Plus now.
Yes, as well as the BBC in the UK, but everywhere else worldwide, it's Disney money. It's the Mouse House.
So for our British viewers, it is available there.
On the BBC player and also on the British Broadcasting System's flagship channel.
Do you have anything more for us?
We have processes and protocols and standards.
I'm watching a show called Dark Matter, which is a wonderful sci-fi program starring Joel Edgerton and Jennifer Connelly and Alice Braga.
What's that about?
It's about a scientist who gives it up to become a professor at a college because he would have been separated and lost in his work from his wife, and a doppelganger shows up, knocks him out, and thrusts him into an alternate universe where the doppelganger came from and tries to take over his life in our world. And that's the beginning of it, and it turns out that...
The science is ridiculous.
There is super science involved, and I can only tell you that the mysteries unravel, and...
it's Dark Matter, it's called.
Yeah, and the whole multiverse idea is kind of exciting about this, and I would suggest that, fans of sci-fi might be on board and probably should be.
Jennifer Connelly and Joel Edgerton.
Yeah, Joel Edgerton and Jennifer Connelly. It's on Apple TV.
Yes, sir.
And it's continuing Apple's run of terrific limited series. So I recommend Dark Matter. Have a little patience. It draws you in.
I see. Great. Well, good. That's Dark Matter. It's available on Apple TV. Doctor Who. The latest incarnation, Michael likes. You can find it on Disney Plus. The various changes in Doctor Who through the years have yielded some real benefits, Michael says, in terms of production and special effects.
It's been a launching pad for a lot of really talented people. And Millie Gibson, who plays the mysterious Ruby Sunday, the new female companion, she might be next. We already have Ncuti Gatwa.
The next big star to break out of Doctor Who.
She's very good in the current run, and I believe she's in a modernization of the Forsyte saga coming up.
Oh, my parents used to watch the Forsyte saga. They love the Forsyte saga, my mom and dad.
This is not your parents' Forsyte saga.
Okay, the Robot Dreams film is the animated feature, Oscar nominated. Michael really likes Robot Dreams. He says it will. I'll mention Robot Dreams again, hoping that you change the graphic to Robot Dreams. Thank you. Robot Dreams takes place in 1980s New York, and a dog and a robot are friends separated, and apparently the attempt to reunite is it works really well. The entire film, well, it's an Oscar-nominated film, so you'd figure it hangs together nicely, and it's even emotional.
Right. Well, 1.5 tears on the Snyder cryometer.
Wow, and I'm worried, but I'm compelled to see it because I'm very soft touch emotionally. Robot Dreams is what it's called. It's in theaters. Summer Camp. Summer Camp is so bad, says Michael Snyder, quoting him, it makes 80 for Brady look like on Golden Pond, which is one of the, I think that's a...
Yikes.
Really one to miss, despite the fact that it has Alfred Woodard, Kathy Bates, Diane Keaton,
Eugene Levy. Oh, my God. Eugene.
Sometimes stars take a project for the money, or we're not aware of, what it was going to turn out to be. Hey, meantime, on the other side of Cinema Land, there's a horror film that Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, loves. It's called In a Violent Nature. It's a low-budget, cleverly executed film, and Michael really is into it.
Yeah, but it's not for everybody. It's a horror movie, and I think Loves is a little extreme.
Okay.
I thought it was very well done, of kind.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
of course can't go near it. That stuff freaks me out. But you guys might like it anyway. It is in theaters, and it's. Well, you heard Michael on that.
It'll eventually end up on Shudder, the horror streaming service.
Ezra is the film about a couple that is divorced, raising their autistic son, Bobby Cannavale, Rose Byrne, Vera Farmiga, Whoopi Goldberg, Rainn Wilson. I mean, it reads like some kind of red carpet. Tony Goldwyn,
you're burying,
William Fitzgerald.
You're
Robert
burying
De
the
Niro.
lead. You're burying the lead. De Niro.
I was getting to Robert De Niro.
Okay.
I was finishing with a crescendo. How dare you
I'm
interrupt me?
Sorry, dude.
Anyway, the reality is that Michael really liked this. Ezra. He felt the performances were believable. The child is on the spectrum, is apparently quite good. And do you have something else to say?
I can't believe, your brain filter is such. I thought it had problems with the script. I just thought the performances were really lovely.
You're right. I actually forgot completely. It seemed to me that you liked it, but you're saying...
No, I mean, this cross-country trip. Let me kidnap my son and go on a cross-country trip to do some show because he's my lucky charm, even though he's autistic.
Maybe it was me who liked it. I liked your review.
Oh, I try to do my best.
Yeah. But you're saying in truth it has issues.
It has issues. It's not terrible. The performances make it worthwhile.
See, I like that basic premise that you're kidnapping your autistic son to go cross country to be on some show. To me, that speaks to me. Like the lust for, the spotlight. It's very Rain Man, too. And then this kid,
You don't want to take this kid to Vegas, though. I'm telling you right now.
All right. And finally, the first film that Michael reviewed was Young Woman and the Sea. It is on Disney, and it's a docudrama about this tenement kid and the tenement kid in New York, desire to swim the English Channel. But remember, this takes place, I think, was it around...
the early 1900s, about 1915, 1916,
and this is a
1920.
woman,
Yeah.
and because of Young Woman and the Sea, one might be able to figure that out.
Yeah.
But women then... facing any number of things that were making it difficult to achieve anything along these lines. They weren't viewed as viable sports, athletes, and they were thought of in just sit in the kitchen and...
Right. There's a scene in here where our heroine and her sister want to jump into the pool, and the men are in the pool, but since there are men in the pool, no women allowed.
That's crazy, isn't it? We've really... what's our problem as a species, Michael Snyder?
I don't know. And then you give, I assume, a talented woman enough money to make summer camp, and she screws all of her sisters by doing a crappy job. I'm just kidding. Good luck to you on your next film.
Okay. Michael, tell me thank you for these reviews.
Sure.
Tell me quickly about where people can find you.
Well, you can check me out at thevoicesf.org, where I do a weekly column. This week's column is about Music City, San Francisco, the wonderful entertainment complex developed by a singer and entrepreneur Rudy Colombini on Bush in San Francisco. And it's Rudy's attempt, and things are going pretty well, to kind of bring San Francisco back to the forefront of the music scene on a global level. And you can find out more about it by reading the article. And I'm also here on the Mark Thompson Show every Friday, buddy.
Well, we look forward to your visits. We really do. And you can find the Culture Blaster across social media at Culture Blaster.
And on Threads at Mike the Knife 123. Go Giants! You're facing the Bronx Bombers tonight. The Yankees are in town at Oracle Park. I know where I'm going to be brain-wise at 7 p.m. tonight.
Judy says, thank you, Michael Snyder. She gives you the signature rainbows. He does come and go on a rainbow. Bye-bye, Michael Snyder.
So long, everybody.
Culture Blaster. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.